Imagine being boiled alive in your own medicine, burned to death by the very treatment meant to heal you, or having your skull crushed slowly over days while crowds cheered for your suffering. These aren't horror movie plots. These are the final moments of some of history's most powerful rulers, men and women who commanded armies, controlled empires, and held the power of life and death over millions, only to meet ends so grotesque that even their enemies felt sick watching. Today, we're diving into the most agonizing, drawn-out, and utterly horrifying deaths ever inflicted on royalty. Deaths so brutal they make medieval torture chambers look like day spas. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll never look at a throne the same way again. Let's start with Emperor Andronikos I Komnenos of Byzantium, a man who learned the hard way that reforming corruption makes you popular with peasants, but absolutely despised by everyone with money and power. Andronikos wasn't your typical Byzantine emperor lounging around eating grapes and watching gladiators. No, this guy actually tried to fix things. He slashed the influence of the aristocracy, completely overhauled the tax system to stop wealthy landowners from bleeding peasants dry, and had the audacity to hand out government positions based on actual competence instead of whose family had the fattest wallet. For a brief, shining moment, the common people loved him. They probably threw little Byzantine parties in his honor. But here's the thing about pissing off the wealthy elite. They have long memories and even longer knives. Andronikos' rule quickly transformed from reformist hero to paranoid tyrant. Anyone, and I mean anyone, who even looked at him funny could expect to be publicly humiliated, mutilated, or straight up executed. Suspected disloyalty wasn't something you investigated under Andronikos. It was something you punished immediately and creatively. Then 1185 rolled around and everything fell apart faster than you can say regime change. William II of Sicily decided to invade and absolutely demolished Thessalonica, one of the Byzantine Empire's crown jewels. The public turned on Andronikos like a pack of rabid dogs. At the same time, he made the colossal mistake of sending an official to arrest one of his own family members. That family member killed the official, which honestly, fair enough. And suddenly everyone decided this relative was a better option than Andronikos. The emperor tried to flee the capital, probably thinking he'd live out his days in comfortable exile somewhere nice. He was caught. And what happened next makes Game of Thrones look like a children's cartoon. The crowd, those same peasants who once loved him, got their hands on him. For 3 entire days, they tortured him in public. Think about that. 3 days, 72 hours of continuous, unimaginable agony. They started by cutting off his right hand. Then they tore out his teeth one by one and ripped his hair from his scalp in bloody clumps. They gouged out one of his eyes, leaving the socket a weeping, infected hole. They poured boiling water directly onto his face, melting the skin and leaving him barely recognizable as human. And they beat him, over and over with clubs, rocks, fists, whatever they could find. Finally, they dragged what was left of him to the Hippodrome, that great arena where Byzantines once watched chariot races and celebrated victories. They hung him upside down by his feet between 2 massive pillars, and Latin soldiers took turns stabbing him slowly, deliberately making sure each thrust was just painful enough to keep him conscious but not quite deadly enough to end it quickly. Historical accounts claim he remained aware through most of this nightmare, feeling every cut, every tear, every moment of his body being literally ripped apart in front of thousands of screaming spectators. When he finally died, they didn't even give him the dignity of burial. His mutilated remains were left exposed to rot in the open air for years, a festering monument to what happens when you try to challenge the powerful. Birds pecked at his corpse. Dogs gnawed on his bones. Rain and sun took turns degrading whatever was left until there was nothing but a greasy stain and a legend of suffering. Now let's talk about Emperor Valerian, the first Roman emperor ever captured in battle, which was already humiliating enough to make the entire Roman Empire collectively cringe. But what happened to him after his capture turned him into a cautionary tale so horrifying that it echoed across continents and centuries. Valerian became emperor during the crisis of the 3rd century, when Rome was basically falling apart from every direction simultaneously. The Sassanid Persians under Shapur I were hammering the eastern frontiers, reclaiming territories and generally making Roman life miserable. Then the Goths attacked from what's now Turkey, forcing Valerian to split his attention and his armies. That's when disaster struck with the subtlety of a meteor. A plague ripped through his troops, killing thousands and leaving his military so weakened they could barely hold formation. The Persians besieged the city, and in a moment that must have made every Roman ancestor spin in their graves, they captured the emperor himself. What followed was a masterclass in humiliation and degradation. Shapur didn't just imprison Valerian. He turned him into a living trophy, a broken symbol of Rome's vulnerability. Historical accounts describe Shapur using Valerian as a literal human stepping stool whenever he wanted to mount his horse. Picture it. The emperor of Rome, the supposed master of the known world, forced to kneel in the dirt while a Persian king stepped on his back like he was furniture. Valerian apparently tried to buy his freedom, offering vast sums of gold, treasures beyond imagination. One particularly dark story claims that Shapur's response was to force molten gold down Valerian's throat, cooking him from the inside out in the most symbolically cruel execution imaginable. After he died screaming, they supposedly flayed his skin from his body, stuffed the empty flesh sack with straw like some grotesque scarecrow, dyed it red to preserve it, and displayed it in a Persian temple as a permanent monument to Rome's humiliation. For decades, maybe centuries, that stuffed skin suit hung there, a reminder that even the mightiest empires can be reduced to trophies for their enemies. Mary, Queen of Scots, had one of the most botched executions in royal history, and considering how many royals have been executed throughout the centuries, that's really saying something. Mary's problem started when her second husband was murdered, and people started whispering that maybe, just maybe, she had something to do with it. She was forced to abdicate in favor of her infant son and thrown in prison. But Mary wasn't the type to stay locked up quietly. She escaped and immediately started gathering support to reclaim her throne. After losing a decisive battle, she fled to England, thinking her cousin Elizabeth I would offer protection. Instead, Elizabeth put her under house arrest, which sounds cushy until you realize it lasted 19 years. 19 years of being watched, having every letter intercepted, every visitor screened, every movement tracked. Mary's name kept appearing in Catholic plots to assassinate Elizabeth and take the English throne. Eventually, spies decoded her secret correspondence proving she had agreed to Elizabeth's murder. She was tried under the Act for the Queen's Safety, found guilty of treason, and sentenced to death. The execution took place in a great hall with a scaffold draped in black cloth, a wooden block, and a cushion for her to kneel on. Mary was blindfolded, knelt down, placed her neck on the block, and prepared for a quick, clean death. That's not what happened. The executioner's first blow completely missed her neck and struck the back of her head with a sickening crunch. Mary didn't die. She didn't even lose consciousness immediately. The executioner struck again, and this time the blade nearly severed her head, but not quite. A tendon was still attached, so he had to hack through it with the axe like he was chopping wood, sawing back and forth while blood pooled across the scaffold. When he finally lifted her head to show the crowd, her wig slipped off, revealing her real hair, short, gray, and pathetic looking. The crowd stood in stunned, horrified silence, watching this once powerful queen reduced to a bloody prop in an execution gone catastrophically wrong. Al-Mustasim, the last Abbasid caliph of Baghdad, presided over one of history's greatest cultural catastrophes through a combination of arrogance and incompetence. When the Mongols came knocking, Al-Mustasim made the fatal error of underestimating them. He didn't reinforce Baghdad's defenses, didn't recruit additional soldiers, didn't prepare for siege warfare. He just assumed the mighty city of Baghdad, center of Islamic learning and culture, would somehow be immune to Mongol conquest. The Mongols surrounded the city, broke river dikes to flood the ground behind them, raised siege engines, and systematically shattered Baghdad's defenses. Al-Mustasim tried to negotiate, sending envoys to plead for mercy. The Mongols executed the envoys and marched into Baghdad. What followed was a week of destruction so complete, so thorough, that it marked the end of the Islamic Golden Age. The Mongols looted and burned mosques, palaces, hospitals, and the legendary libraries of Baghdad, repositories of knowledge accumulated over centuries. Chroniclers wrote that the Tigris River turned red with blood and black with ink from thousands of ruined manuscripts floating downstream. Tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of people were slaughtered. They made Al-Mustasim watch every moment of his capital's destruction, every building burning, every scholar dying, every book lost forever. Then they wrapped him in a carpet and trampled him under horses. Mongol custom supposedly forbade spilling royal blood directly on the earth, so they found a loophole: crush him to death inside a rug. His bones shattered slowly, his organs ruptured, his skull cracked, all while he suffocated in darkness, feeling every hoof impact, every rib breaking, every moment of his body being pulverized into meat paste. King Charles II of Navarre earned the nickname Charles the Bad, and his death was so bizarrely random it almost seems fictional. By 1387, Charles was seriously ill, his limbs paralyzed, his body failing. His physician prescribed a treatment that sounds insane even by medieval medical standards. They wrapped him head to toe in linen soaked in brandy, sewing the cloth shut like a mummy with only his face exposed. The theory was that the brandy-soaked bandages would somehow cure his paralysis. When the attendant finished sewing near his neck, she needed to cut the thread. She didn't have scissors, so she used a candle flame to burn it. The brandy-soaked wrappings ignited instantly. Charles, completely immobilized, unable to move or escape, was burned alive inside his own palace, screaming in agony while the terrified servant fled. Imagine being conscious, feeling your skin blistering and peeling, smelling your own flesh cooking, completely helpless, knowing you're dying because someone tried to trim a thread with a candle. King Charles II of England collapsed in February 1685 and spent 4 days dying in absolute agony, made infinitely worse by his doctor's attempts to save him. He suffered an apoplectic fit, likely caused by kidney failure, but 17th century medicine had no idea how to treat it. So they did everything wrong in the most spectacularly painful ways possible. They drained massive amounts of blood from him, leaving him pale, weak, and barely conscious. They administered violent enemas and emetics that made him vomit and purge constantly, dehydrating him further while his kidneys were already failing. They gave him mercury, literal poison, which inflamed his mouth, burned his stomach, and destroyed what was left of his kidney function. They performed cupping, pressing heated glass cups to his skin that bruised and tore his flesh. For 4 days, Charles drifted in and out of consciousness, his body covered in burns, blisters, punctures, and bruises, slowly dying from both his illness and his treatment. King Edmund Ironside died in possibly the most undignified way imaginable for a monarch. He earned his nickname fighting fiercely against Danish invasions after his father's disastrous reign. But he was betrayed during a crucial battle and forced into a humiliating peace treaty that divided England, with a particularly ominous clause. Whichever king died first, the other would inherit everything. Weeks later, Edmund was found dead at 25. The story goes that he was assassinated while using the privy, the medieval toilet. An attacker hid beneath him and drove a blade upward into his genitals, or in another version, shot him there with a crossbow. Whether it's true or not, the story persisted. And imagine dying that way, pants down, in your most vulnerable moment, bleeding out from the most humiliating wound possible. Emperor Commodus, who renamed Rome after himself and forced people to worship him as Hercules incarnate, was finally killed when his mistress found a list of people he planned to execute, including herself. She poisoned his food, but he vomited and survived. King Edward II of England was imprisoned by his own wife and eventually murdered, reportedly by having a red-hot poker shoved into his body through his anus, leaving no external wounds but cooking him from the inside. These weren't just deaths. They were statements, warnings, revenge fantasies made real, proof that no amount of power can protect you when your time comes, and sometimes the crown weighs heaviest in your final moments.